Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Jampack Podcast. We got Mike, Deej, and me. I'm Paul, your host. We talk about video games once a week and upload it to you guys, you beautiful people out there. How are you guys doing today?
I'm doing fine. We got DJ here and Paul here, but really, I want to say that you beautiful, beautiful, juicy, tasty gelato people out there, you're the reason we do this. This is all for you. How about you, Deej? You got a message for the people?
The only thing I really have to say right now is kind of about nothing, kind of just running my mouth without getting to any real point, because I can't really think of anything.
Oh, that's so great that you're doing that already, because that is going to be most of the runtime of the podcast. So
that's about the way it works. Yeah.
Getting this practice in.
Well, that's a great breakdown for what we have coming up on the show.
Yeah.
So
I'm here to talk about The Division and what I think about it. I've been playing it since about yesterday at 7 in the morning with my friend.
Did you pay $20 for your beta access?
No, I don't pay anything for it. He just gave me a key. I signed up for it, and they didn't ever send me an email, but he just gave me a key.
Bastards.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to get it when it was 80 cents, and I missed out on that, and they're charging $20 a pop now. So
and you have to wait like a day for them to put you in anyway, so by the time, if you bought it now, it would just be over by the time that it came out. So.
Oh, really? There's a delay on the delivery?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's really good.
Justin bought it yesterday morning as soon as we started playing, and he got in, at about 11, maybe 12 today. And then he had to download it, everything.
That's ridiculous. And that's probably like a, 60 gigabyte download?
26. It's actually small.
Oh, wow.
I thought it was going to be.
The final game's got to be way more than that.
Yeah, it probably will be when you get the gold edition and other stuff on top of it.
I love the gold edition.
Yeah, I love getting stuff like that right at the very beginning, dude. Like, I love spending money on a game 3 times. That's my favorite thing in the world. After the third time, like, that's just euphoria.
I think what you're missing out on is you don't have an Xbox One, so you can't get the Gears of War Ultimate Edition, which also has a deluxe edition of the Ultimate Edition. So it's even more
turbocharged.
It's even more ultimate than the just base Ultimate that you get for $60. Maybe it's $40. So it's a great game, by the way. It was released on 360 like 10 years ago, and you just buy it again. 60 frames per second. All right, guys. So we know what Deej is going to be talking about. Let's get all of this other crap out of the way. What have you been playing this week, Mike?
Well, I think you know the answer to that question because I am officially hooked in the bad way.
J.J. Abrams has you totally signed on to a non-compete clause. You're 100% Star Wars all day, every day. Actually,
surprisingly, the release of the movie kind of detracted from my experience in the game in SWTOR for a little while, and I was actually playing less of it.
We're talking about Star Wars. That very point that you just made right there, whenever you get finished, but that's something that I wanted to point out about whenever I was playing SWTOR, the way I felt about it.
Go ahead, yeah.
The thing that I was going to say is just that very thing. The movies always feel like a very separate thing to me. It felt like with SWTOR, it was Mass Effect, or what BioWare considered their outlook on the Star Wars.
That's totally true. It does feel like Mass Effect.
It just doesn't... I never have the feeling that I'm connected to Star Wars in any way other than there's lightsabers and blaster pistols.
And that's why I think I got in at the perfect time to Star Wars, because I got in pretty much right alongside the Knights of the Fallen Empire expansion. Right. They call it an expansion, but it's pretty much a re-release from the ground up. And that is... It's not like the movies at all. It's still separate universes, and it should feel that way because it is. We're talking thousands of years ago, and too often I see, especially in games, we take for granted how long 1,000 years would be, and things look way too similar for it being 1,000 years ago.
Considering,
but here's the thing about that, and what the Knights of the Old Republic, the first one, I still felt a connection towards the Star Wars future. Like, I still felt that you see Yoda, not Yoda, but Yoda's
People.
part of his people or family, one of the two. And you see all these things that still give you a connection. At least to me, I was also kind of young the first time I played it, but even when I came back to it, I still felt like I was in Star Wars. The Sith felt like the Sith, the Jedi felt like the Jedi, and it just felt like it was in a different time in the lineage. In the Old Republic game, I just don't. Maybe it's because they have to put so much focus into the MMORPG aspect of it that they can't really.
Was it. Have you played the original KOTOR games?
Yeah, the first one a ways through, but I never actually got through and beat it, and I never played the second one.
So you didn't see the big twist of that game, then?
No.
That was one of the best twists in gaming history, and still to this day, it's like one of my favorite stories. Where you find out that, well, you know what? I won't spoil it for you, but
okay.
Because you might want to play it. It's like $2 on Steam.
Yeah, and that game.
Yeah, I have it on Steam too.
It's still a pretty recent game. It's only like 15 years old at this point. So.
And there's a lot of good mods that make the user experience.
I got really close over this winter sale to buying Knights of the Old Republic 2 because Justin was playing it and he was having a good time. But
you got to play the first one.
I got to play Sonic. That's why I had to do this. Christmas.
All right. Well, I just want to close the point. Not that it was even important, but basically the whole point I'm bringing up with the Knights of the Old Republic thing is Knights of the Fallen Empire kind of brought it back to. It didn't bring it back to feeling like the movies, but it did go a long way and bring it back to feeling like KOTOR. And that was enough for me because I played KOTOR when I was younger and I thought it was masterfully done and it still sticks with me today. And even if they only hit notes of that sort of storytelling on occasion in SWTOR, it's enough. Just that little bit. Whether or not they can sustain a subscription model where they're releasing one chapter of story content every month, I don't know if that's going to be enough. But we'll see. I mean, I've had a lot of fun with it still, but like I said, if I had started playing before November of 2015, I probably would have stopped within a week because the content before then is pretty lackluster.
Yeah, and the thing I wanted to say, the movies are such a masterpiece that you can't really copy the feeling you get from watching such a legendary film or a trilogy of films or saga, that you can't really project that into an interactive experience. It's only something that you can observe and be a witness of.
Well, you can. The problem is game designers are too afraid to saddle you with a character who is less than stellar at 60
and maybe if I
things.
played The Force Unleashed, like if I played both of those games, I don't know.
No, that's the exact opposite of what I'm saying is like the movies, the reason they feel so you feel so invested is because the characters are flawed and they're not that powerful and they're constantly a part of bigger things than themselves and just trying to barely grab hold of the situation.
And they're not simple, but they're very human. And
yes.
The emotions that they have and the actions that they cause, they're more like gods, like mythological gods, in the way that they're super powerful, but they're also just extremely human.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know. It's just as powerful as Luke ever was, you always felt like he was one wrong move from losing a limb, and they made sure of that. So it just made every event of those films carry this weight. And even I'm a prequel fan. A lot of people hate the prequels. I liked 1 and 3, and I like The Force Awakens, but I don't think they even have to live up to that. BioWare. I just think that I just get angry when they give in to this sort of, like you said, the Mass Effect feel, and they start to feel like every other game I've played, and it's all so generic, and
that's a common problem with the industry, and you don't know who's exactly working, at the head of the MMO, and if they have the proper Star Wars vision. What I wanted to ask, though, is the subscription model that you're saying 1 chapter a month. How long exactly does it take you to play through that chapter?
Oh, and that's exactly the crux of it. It takes only about an hour to play through the content.
Wow, okay. I was hoping you were going to say like a day or two because...
No.
Yeah, because like once a month, that's way too infrequent to keep me coming back every day. Especially, I mean, MMOs have dailies and all of that garbage that nobody ever feels like doing, but...
I will say this, the dailies in this game are really well done. They really feel cool and immersive, and there's enough of them. There's like hundreds of them, and they're on different planets.
When I played SWTOR, that was, I don't know if it was dailies, but the game felt like when you got really into it when you started doing the those one missions that you could only do like Heroics, yeah. You can only do like one of them if you were a non-member a day, but if you could have unlimited of them if you were a subscriber or whatever. But that to me felt like the real game because everyone got to pick what they wanted to do in the story and they all got to run around together and play together, and everyone would make a roll when they got to this dialogue option, and whoever got the highest roll had the dialogue option displayed.
That is really cool. And the operations.
That was a lot of fun. And you still got the things from your dialogue option that you picked, but you got to see who, like, their character would sit there and say it. And it made you feel twice as connected to your character because you won this role. Your character gets to speak out and be them.
And the other people have to watch it.
Development. Yeah, and everyone else has to experience you.
It's a small victory.
Yeah.
Going back to the model of subscription, would you prefer them to go 6 months without releasing any content and then giving you a big update?
Well, here's the thing. My personal experience with the subscription model is different than most in that...
Right, well, that's what I mean. Like, obviously, they have marketing executives that know what the most effective model is. I'm just asking a subjective opinion on it.
No, yeah. What I'm saying is there are 8 alternate characters with really long, in-depth stories to play through, and all of this stuff that you can kind of work through with each character. So I'm not even done half of those. So there's a lot of back content that I can justify the subscription with right now. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure that once I come to the end of that back content and I'm just going on the new content being released every month, I'm not sure it would be enough, especially considering that I believe you can sub for 1 month and get every chapter up to that point. So I think if I were done all of the previous content at this point, I would probably be comfortable waiting a couple months, about 4 or 5 months.
Not subscribe and put it on the back burner until there's a wealth
I
of content.
kind of wish that they would, with those games, just make the decision, pay to play or not. With SWTOR, you have a hybrid decision that was made that made the game capable for players to just walk in and play it, but really not be able to experience maybe only about half the game.
Right, it punishes you. It's really bad, that model. It's really
bad, and I think that the subscribers would have a better experience if they just removed the free-to-play altogether. They just need to make the game to where their player base is going to be made of people that pay them. And if that's what they want, that's what they should have, not this preview kind of.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, but at the same time, we're in this weird revolutionary shift with a lot of these different models of for gaining access to the game.
Right.
And honestly, I think if you had purely subscribers as your player base, I think your numbers would dwindle, and that would really take away this illusion. I think they like to have a larger player base just as a statistic while the game is active, and it helps.
I can
them
see that
it
makes them look better, and they also their servers up and everything.
Speaking of which, they released figures this week. Their quarterly earnings. EA did, and they did claim that the subscribers have hit, I think, all time, or at least the highest in 3 years. Population levels
since their horrid launch.
Yeah, so I mean, and the thing about SWTOR that's really cool is like it is a great game. Like there's a lot of great content in there. I just think it's being so poorly handled. Like if they drop that sub fee to from 15 or 4 or 10 or whatever it is to like 8, like $7.99, like kind of like an early Netflix type of level.
Right.
You drop that to $7.99 and give maybe a few more cartel coins, they call them, the in-game currency for subscribing, you would double your subscription number. I really believe that.
Yep. Give people a deal. Give people
get
something
them excited
that's worth
about
buying and get them pumped up and ready to do it. And that's what they should have done with that big E3 announcement. I think everybody knew as soon as that was coming out that it was a big snooze, and they didn't really care that much as far as everything else that was coming out that E3. Like, they couldn't really compete. There was a lot of crazy shit last E3, like Mirror's Edge, and what's that game that you and Richie really, really like, Paul? That you're like... when they
talking about the Ghost Recon, the new Ghost Recon.
Yeah, the Ghost Recon.
Yeah, it's looking like Ghost Recon's going to become the every game with an open world, but honestly, Recon was one of my favorite games on the original Xbox, Ghost Recon 2. So, as long as there's certain core elements from that genre in there, then I'm okay. It just looks awesome riding around in like a Jeep with 4 guys, a Humvee with a turret on top, just blasting kids. So
I can't wait for Mirror's Edge because I really hope they do the thing they did when they originally came out and they push the envelope for graphical and just good all-around mechanically designed games with beautiful graphics. And that's what Crysis trying to do, but they were a bad game with just 4, like you said before, they were just had somebody that made high-resolution textures and a terrible artist.
Right, well, I was going to make that point when you were saying a beautiful game, is Mirror's Edge has a great simplistic art style, which really, I think simple is...
It's a comic book. That's why they wanted to look similar in a way to like a comic book. That's why they...
It's more difficult to make basic and simple look great. My point is always about... The resolution of textures doesn't
affect
the actual artistic and visual. Like, it might change the fidelity of the game, but it won't look as great. Like, Dishonored is always the example of that's like they're not full HD textures. They might be like 1K textures, but they use a pastel art style to it, and the faces of all the characters are really characterized and but it has these really nice soft colors, and I think that those colors and that art style looks better than, just walking up and zooming in with the sniper rifle scope on a 4K texture and going...
And we can talk about that a lot more next week, because when we talk about Tomb Raider and that stuff, because that's something I wanted to really hit up on that I was just thinking about was... the way Tomb Raider looks and
everything. Working in teases already, dude.
Yeah, working in teases.
Master podcaster.
So, before we dive into the Division, I think the Diablo Season 5 is out? Or is it Season 5, right?
Season 5.
Yeah. I think Mike hasn't gotten in on that. I think we should just kind of...
skim over it. Should I tell my story?
Huge price barrier there.
Should I tell my weekend adventure story?
Oh, no, I don't know, dude. I don't...
It might be funny.
Yeah, it's your decision to do that.
Yeah. That is my own little secret.
Yeah, that's your...
I'll think about it depending on what we're talking about.
Just in general, what improvements they've made with the game are pretty colossal over, obviously, the auction house. That was a terrible sham of a game. When they closed that down, Diablo 3 became a playable game. But comparatively from Season 2 to Season 5, they really hit you with a jump start when the season opens. So just for anybody that doesn't know, when the seasons are a big global reset. Anybody who plays in a current season, they have to create a new character and start from level 1.
And they'll add new things to the game, and they'll reset leaderboards. It'll just be a fresh start in general.
It's like the latest patch, right?
And they generally add content. Yeah.
So
substantial amount of content.
In Season 2, what you would see is a lot of builds that would use two rings, which are a set, which really increase damage, which are called Focus and Restraint. But later on in Season 2, you started seeing people pick Convention of Elements over Focus and Restraint, because Convention of Elements has an effect where it can, at max roll, it will increase your damage by 200%, but it rolls around on the different elements in like 4-second modules. Intervals, thank you. So what you end up with is you're kind of sitting there waiting, but when it hits lightning or whatever element you're rolling on your character, you'll just blow things up. So that's really great for pushing grifts, which are greater rifts. That's what the whole leaderboards are built around. The big advancement that they made is introducing the cube, which allows you to take one of a weapon, a legendary weapon with a unique passive, a legendary piece of armor, and a piece of jewelry. So you can then, with those 3 passives broken down and applied in the cube, you can take the passive for Convention of Elements and actually apply it to your build while also wearing Focus and Restraint. And what that does is it really opens up the window for different builds that you might run, because not everybody's going to use Convention of Elements. There's rings that allow the barbarians to change their cooldown or
and the whole assortment of things. There's several rings that certain builds totally revolve around that give damage reduction after you use certain abilities. Fill in the blank that they need that they can't use that combo in. And sometimes they're at a disadvantage because of that. Generally, those rings are pretty good and they make them great, but compared to a build that can already still work and then get 100% increased damage on everything, literally double damage, and then 200% added onto that. When that element rolls.
You're just talking about insane figures, just
just boom.
What they changed this season is they get everybody jump started with one free set, which is always the season starts, you get up to 70 within a few hours.
And then you farm and you look for your gear and you have
and typically you run whatever set you find first. However, in Season 5 they added a journal, which they had before, but in this journal one of the rewards is actually a full set. So that's the set you start out with. You can only do that once, so you have to pick your character that you want, and you're stuck with the set that they give you. But getting a full set really throws you into the ability to really farm at a faster pace, and it saves you a lot of time and headaches.
Now, is this primarily PvE that's going on?
Yes, this is solely PvE.
It's literally sitting there and you're tuning a build. It's like working on a car. You're sitting there trying to squeeze out horsepower, trying to figure out, am I going to lower it? Does it?
And you're trying to. It's also like you're trying to figure for the track that you're on too. It's like with the barbarian that I play. Everyone aims for this particular amulet that removes fire damage, because the only 3 bosses that really screw him over late game is they're all fire. They all do fire damage. And so you look for that amulet so you can account for that in case they throw that at you.
And I've seen from what little I've seen of Diablo 3 as an outsider, I tried to get into Diablo 3, but the price barrier was just too much.
It's ridiculous.
But from what I've seen as an outsider, it's like it kind of just plays like progression rating, like a really fine-tuned, polished progression rating game.
I called it the sifting simulator because you're literally you turn into a zombie and you wait. You just go through rifts and you wait until you get drops that you can then upgrade your current, what you're wearing, and all of that kind of stuff. Which is true, but there's something. You get such a buzz in the beginning of a season from finding a great set piece that has what you need rolled on it. There's a lot of complex stats, and we went into some specifics. I don't want to get too far into it.
I've got a comparison to make, and I'm going to bring in the survival games to make this comparison. But it's similar to, I don't know if you ever played that many survival games, but if you've played a survival mode game like Rust or stuff like that, and you play on this, and you've played on the standard server setting of loot rates and everything like that, it's like comparing that to something like H1Z1 with Battle Royale. That's just bam, like fast fire into what you wanted to do to begin with, which is combat. And with
So you're comparing. You're saying that's
like kind of compared to MMORPGs.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the point I was going to make. It's kind of like playing an MMORPG, but you're right into it. It's like, unless when you're starting out on the season, depending on what you get and what happens as you're leveling up, you'll go faster. But generally, if it's like me and Paul are playing next season off the start, and we're ready to play all night, we'll play probably about 3 to 4 hours or something like that. And then we'll be max level, and then we'll be looking for gear and the other things that go into it. And you get Paragon levels that give you stats and stuff like that. But
I think the way that I look at it is MOBAs like League of Legends are the super fast kind of crack product.
Right. No.
MMORPGs are the long form.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Diablo's
a little bit in the middle of those.
Yeah, I wanna say something quick about the price barrier that you said. I think Diablo is actually one of the best value propositions that, for the amount of time that we've spent on it, from just buying the base game and one expansion, we've gotten 5 seasons where they've made large improvements, they've adjusted things, added new things, and they give
Blizzard. You're right.
They give you a lot of reasons to keep coming back. So now there is a price barrier, but what you get out of it, I would say, is worth it. Now, the comparison to the MOBAs, I think, is really interesting because I play Smite, and what Diablo does is it actually makes you play as a more intelligent player, because Diablo has you sitting there solving a problem of, how do I min-max? I'm looking at my stats, what needs to be fixed up, what needs to be changed next, because you take a priority when you have 6 set pieces, you have a belt, and you have bracers, and the bracers always have a crazy passive that works with the set. Then you have an amulet and 2 rings. So with all of that, and your weapon as well, your weapon goes, and a possible offhand. So there's all this crazy, a lot of equipment that you have to find these particular pieces that work all together in one unified system, and then you want the very best rolls for what you're looking for. And certain things come into more of a priority, like cooldown is a big priority on the Demon Hunter because Vengeance got buffed this season, and it totally changed everything. It reduces your damage by 40%, it increases your damage by 50%. It's a ridiculous thing. And if you have your cooldown built up above 36%, and then you have this hat that you can find that you break down and put in the cube, it reduces your cooldown by 65% when it's in the cube. Then
that's crazy.
You just have it on all the time. So now this ability is just active constantly because the cooldown is set to such, and then your cooldown doesn't need to go above that point. So now you start to work on critical damage chance and just your main.
And I've got to say, as you're describing this, I've got to say it's pretty brilliant what Blizzard has chosen to do with Diablo.
It's insane,
and you're saying there's no PvP, correct?
No.
So it's brilliant because what is the primary, especially with a game like this, what is the thing that holds back games from being able to really get into the nitty-gritty of letting you customize or gimp a character and really takes... What is the thing that makes people put caps on their games? It's balance, right?
Balance.
The proposition of balance in PvP, because
you make a good point here.
Yep.
PvP is where balance is going to be bitched about on the forums, and it's going to be public outcry. You dodge that bullet when you make it strictly PvE,
and
because
what you do,
who cares if they're doing more damage?
Everybody needs to be busted. That's the whole thing. Everybody's broken, and somebody made a point about Smite that a lot of the gods are broken. That game is designed to be broken. That game steamrolls through its progression depending on which game mode you're playing. But anyway, sorry, The point that I wanted to make, though, is you were comparing it to MOBAs, and I really think that after you get done a Diablo season, it changes the way that you look at MOBAs, and you start looking at your build under more of a magnifying glass. And
games like that in general, like Borderlands or The Division, or games that are all built off the same platform.
Yeah. So as opposed to just saying, all right, I just need my pen now, you start looking at a lot of, like, what are they building? What am I building? What are my stats going to do? Am I going to get red buff early
and what am I working towards? I got to have something that I'm going to min-max. And that's a real thing that makes your character better than other characters.
And I got to say, as a League of Legends, like, long-time diehard, I played at a competitive level. I would welcome a escape from the PvP type of situation, because it's not
covered.
It's not as satisfying to defeat somebody in that game, because they're never going to be cordial with you. If the game means anything, it's always going to be like a huge, like, vile, kind of poisonous argument. As soon as
Have you ever played Rocket League?
No. Is it like that in Rocket League?
No. It's a sport. You feel a real satisfaction when you juke somebody or when you outplay them in general. And they can't really say anything other than they got dookied on. And it's like just the most simplistic of games.
It has such a high skill ceiling to it.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same as Halo, where I think Halo is one of the purest, most balanced games. I love Halo. I always swear by Halo.
Well, Halo 2 they really hit their stride with that. It was
Halo
perfect.
Halo 2 had bugs in it that allowed a higher skill ceiling. I've talked about Halo 5 in the past, and a lot of people just glossed over that and didn't really give it its due. I think that they really made some changes and balance changes where they made weapons that were just garbage and useless. They actually said, we're going to make this better than your starter weapon. So the SMG's better than the assault rifle, and the DMR's better than the battle rifle. Depending on your situation, and then they actually made things to where a battle rifle doesn't just mean instant win. Battle rifle meant instant win in Halo 2. Battle rifle meant instant win in Halo 3.
If you were good enough.
If you had the skill. Now you have to have the skill and the awareness to say, I have a battle rifle, I'm excellent with it, but that doesn't mean that I can just walk into a room and out BR somebody.
On everyone.
Yeah, no, it means, that guy's dropped on me from above and he was up on me with his assault rifle. He got the kill. I'm not going to be able to out BR somebody doing that.
I don't know. I mean, I get what you're saying, and you've certainly played it more than I did, but I never got the sense that... I always got the sense, even in Halo 2, with how powerful the battle rifle was, that if I got the drop on you with an assault rifle, chances were you're not getting it.
In Halo 2, you could do what's called the BXR, where you melee'd, hit the reload button, which canceled your melee frames, and then you would shoot immediately.
Right, but they patched that out.
Well, they patched that out in Halo 3 in a new iteration of the game. Halo 2 still has BXR today.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought they patched it out online.
And even on the Master Chief Collection re-release, it still exists. So we call them sweaty Halo 2 kids. When you play Master Chief Collection and they pick Halo 2 and you run up against some sweaty Halo 2 kids, you better get ready to get double shot on. You don't walk up on kids because they're going to BXR you. It's going to happen.
All right, well, let's not go down this route.
Yeah, we're going to... Anyway, the point that I was making about Rocket League was that it is a pure skill ceiling, and it's really simple game. Get the ball in the net, but you are one player. There's no management of anything other than yourself and setting things up for your teammates or being ready for a setup. Like, understanding how shooting the ball in this arena works, and it's a lot of judging angles.
And there's several different modes that totally change the game based on how many players there are. Like 2-mans compared to 1-mans compared to 3-mans. Those are three
tactics,
totally different games from one another.
You're still doing the same thing, but your tactics have changed considerably because of how comfortable you can be in a 3-man versus a 2-man or a 1-man.
You can do a lot more things with the ball. And
I think at the height of its power, when I was playing competitively, as unpopular as it's going to be to say this, I think League of Legends was as balanced as it could have been, and I think it was, as you're saying, a pure PvP experience where skill really did win the day. The problem is that it's become, League of Legends is like 99% public random queues now, which completely takes strategy out of it. When you randomly get with a group of guys, most of the time nobody's talking to each other and nobody's running strategy. It's just a gank fest. Two people go top lane, kill one person, and then they see that in mid and they go gank bottom. It's just a bunch of... It's just
a pub stomp game.
Yeah, it's all it is. It's not fun.
One thing I can say about Smite is me and Deej have been playing Joust, which is a 3v3, and we run a pub stomp combo because
we're tired of getting pooped on.
The thing that's annoying is people go, "Good job, you ran the pub stomp combo and you got wins," but it's like, I'm not going to sit there. I have a job. I work during the day. I'm not going to, waste the 3 or 4 games that I play a night on losing because I decided to take the noble route and pick this quirky comp that's not going to work when the other team picks a pub stomp. So I'm just going to pick a pub stomp. I'm going to stomp you, and I'm going to have fun because me having fun is the goal at the end of the day. But the point that I wanted to make about the Smite community is that me and Deej go into a 3-man game, and we get in with a random, and I've asked them to play one of the pub stomp characters, and they have in most cases, they just pick them and say no problem. And even if they're a little bit wonky and not good with them, it's a pub stomp character, so we carry it, they can do their job. It works well together. There's certain combos that you just can't deny it when you have constant CC. That's not going to be something that you can fight against with your ultimate, which is a CC.
And it all comes down to this, and that's why I say that Diablo might be a great decision. And I'd love to give it a shot at some point because I'd welcome a sort of a working together, a cooperative experience.
Right. Compared to that, you're to look good is to get a high score.
Right,
and that's the classic.
Effective.
That is the classic goal of games. Yeah. That is and it's literally like, well, people can say, how can you want that? What's good? What good is a leaderboard? I don't know. To get on it, to say that I pushed Grift 80 or what the hell ever, and that I'm a fat nerd too. That's the whole point. Like the Atari and old school games. That's the whole thing that video gaming was built upon, and they grab that and revive it into a modern setting with a modern game, and they make it fun, and they add gambling in it to make you like. There's
so much
for
gambling.
instance,
There's gotta be gambling. I mean,
you have to risk a lot of materials and a lot of everything to do certain things that you just generally afterwards just say, "Why did I do that?"
Yeah,
and that's the same with MMORPGs. You get your gear. You don't really look at the stats that are on it, and you're not saying, well, I'm going to get rid of this and start looking for another same piece of gear so I can get my better stats on it, and I'm not going to start looking for that same thing of equipment, just the super version, which is ancient in Diablo. And in Diablo, they have those things. They have those things to make you want to take the same thing that you're using and make it 3 times as good. And that is a lot of fun at the end of the day.
That's the reward. And they do these like small little things with the stats to where you have primary stats and then secondary stats. If you have a resistance in your secondary stat, which will be
for single as fire.
Yeah, it'll be fire, lightning, any element. You
can't roll all resist onto that piece of equipment
as a primary, yeah.
And so, and that's the thing I was going to make. I got started on that I was trying to remember. I'm never throwing away pieces of gear in an MMORPG because it's not as good. In Diablo, I'm throwing away ancient pieces compared to my normal pieces because they don't have my main stat. They don't have the thing that makes it great. Like my friend Drew was telling me, I was pretty fucking sure that I should go for just an ancient high damage weapon. Everyone was like, why are you using that weapon or this weapon? And it was like, well, it doesn't have anything to do with your build. And I was like, well, it's got
the biggest number on it.
It's got the biggest number. It gives all of my abilities go off of that number, and there's a whole assortment of other things. But really, there's other things on your weapon that you need, that you take advantage of, and that you use. And so my friend Drew, who's fatter than me, and so I use his word has more weight, and he said that I should just use this regular weapon, that's a non-ancient version of the version that I'm looking for, because it has the higher like earthquake damage or whatever, and fill in the blank.
It turns into a big equation, and Blizzard does this thing where they don't tell you what the equation is, so you never know when you're looking at it. You look at just one big number, and you do a quick math, and you say, well, this number is going to be bigger in total, but you always see people that are at the top of the leaderboard doing something skewed, slightly different, and using a different ability because it actually procs off of something that they're using, and it does this big amplification to it that you don't know because the equation's not out there, and they always use percentages as opposed to just a flat number that's being equated to.
I feel like we're getting bogged down in this, and I really do. I'm interested, but I don't want to get all talked
Do we want to go on to the Division, which also has something to do with Diablo?
I wanted to get past it. We got into it.
No,
it's fine. It's interesting stuff, and it's meaty, and it's certainly relevant. I want to make sure we get to. I don't want to be stumbling into the Division. I want us to get there with some energy.
Yeah. No, I got plenty of energy, actually. I don't know how long you guys normally go for, but I've got a lot of wind left to talk about the Division in several ways.
All right, let's get into it then. Paul?
Okay.
So this week, I didn't play the Division at all. I didn't get into the beta. I flubbed on that one. Let's hear your impressions, Deej.
Okay, the thing I think about it, let me think about where to start. When I got into with my friend, Pickle, I was skeptical at first. I really was, for a whole multitude of reasons. One being the numbers popping up when I shoot people. I know you can turn it off, but I still think I might need them at some point. It has kind of a feel of the game Defiance, and that game is fun. I think it's great, but it's a lot of spam shooting, and it's a lot of sit there and hold your left click at this big boss and just wait. And
oh man,
that game gets mundane and boring. The thing about the Division, if you're within the right level of your area and you're where you need to be, it generally feels fine. The shooting feels fine. One thing about the shooting is it feels a little bit arcadey. There's no try to make realism bullets like an H1Z1 with drop. There's no hold your breath with the scope out and steady your aim. You might like it, Paul, because it's Halo. It's Halo.
That's what I was gonna say.
It's like Halo. When I'm shooting kids, that's what it feels like. It's like a third person. It's Gears.
That's what I've heard. I asked the question to some people who played it. What does it feel like? Because I think that's the biggest thing. Is it doesn't really matter what the game is. If it doesn't feel good, I'm not gonna play it to find out the goodness in it. So I guess tell us a little bit about your experience and is it a quest for getting geared? Is it more about the experience of exploring?
Playing.
Yeah. What do you do when you get on?
What is your goal and what you get out of the game? Well, that's a mix of things. It is a treadmill, and the thought of getting better gear makes the whole game because you want to progress into the farther areas of the whole city because that's the higher level dark zone places. And so getting more gear leads to exploring. And
I think exploration's a great reward, by the way. I think that's having actual content.
And that's a good point because they do that in a lot of games, and that was the coolest feeling. Was like in Diddy Kong Racing, you see an area, it's got 20 keys or whatever it is that you need to get, and you don't have that yet.
Yeah, things
it's this
behind
big,
doors.
cool, awesome door, and yeah.
No, so would you feel comfortable saying, Deej, that the Division, Tom Clancy's The Division, is the next Diddy Kong Racing?
Yeah, that is 100% minus the cars and the airplanes and the boats.
Put that on the poster,
Put
guys.
that on your legs and walk around for about 30 minutes, and that's Diddy Kong Walking Simulator. And
So wait, I saw the E3 video of this, right?
Right.
Everybody's seen it by now, I'm pretty sure.
Yes. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
And besides the awful
the dialogue, the
actors.
script,
Their little back and forth.
The thing that jumped out to me the most was it didn't feel like a Tom Clancy game at all, because it felt like there were very little consequences for getting shot or being involved in a firefight.
Oh, 100%. If you compare it to every other Tom Clancy game, it's nothing like that. It might be a total other developer from those games too. I have no idea, but there's no realism in that game whatsoever. I mean, yeah, I dome people. It's like two shots of the headshot, depending on what you get, what your sniper is, and everything else, and they'll be really low on health. But that's still shooting them in the head with no helmet, and they have with the sniper rifle. If you're playing any other game, particularly a realistic Tom Clancy game, they're dead right there. Shoot them in the head with the helmet, and you have a pistol. They're dead.
And that's so critical, because that's what drives teamwork in those games. Is you're supposed to be like, we can't take one or two shots.
Right. So if you're going into that game and expecting a realistic Tom Clancy game mixed with a survival experience of like H1Z1, you're not going to get that. What you're going to get is a treadmill-driven system mixed with a survival-based exploration.
When you say treadmill, are you talking about like Destiny?
Like Destiny, yeah.
Oh, man. This is
the
all
one
bad
thing-
news.
The one thing that I have a complaint about, and it's a fun game, don't get me wrong, but the one thing I have a complaint about out of all of that, if that's the way it's going to be, don't make the gear static. Why would they do that? The gear is
Cosmetically?
all in the... No, the fucking... The guns, all the good rare drops that you get, and the whole risk of going into the dark zone, that whole like aspect of the game,
The loot.
is thrown off because the loot system is messed up. And they don't even talk about this, but to me, it's just a bad way to do it. There's these boxes that are like skewed out all across the areas, and in these contaminated areas or whatever. And you can just open them up, but you have to be a particular dark zone level. So normally they're like 8 or level 10 or fill in the blank. And then there'll be these super boxes that have like 3 pieces of gear, 2 pieces of gear. And you'll have to have a key that you get. I don't know how you actually get it. I've only found it off of killing people that already have one. But you get a dark zone key. And all of these things are in the same location on a small map with a lot of people. So it legitimately leaves you wandering around trying to look for these locations when some of them don't have boxes at all. Other ones do, but everyone's gotten to them because there's so many people. There's no real surefire way to change your server either. You can't just go, I'm going to click change instance or select from a list of instances or fill in the blank.
Well, how many people are usually in your phase?
There's no number that I can say. I can only give you a guesstimate. But I'd say that with the amount of people that I see, with how often I'm running around, it would be about the normal amount of a Battle Royale game on H1Z1, which I don't know if you ever played that, but that's 140 people.
Okay.
So I think it might be about 140 people.
So wouldn't you say, though, that kind of having that kind of static loot system might actually lead to some interesting scavenging meta game?
I think
With being on them and defending them and waiting for them to come back up, it takes forever for them to come back up. That's the thing I would say. It takes so long that you really don't want to sit there and wait. You'd rather just run around and wait for someone to see someone call an extraction.
And I'm sure this is the beta. I mean, this is the beta, and I'm sure that this is the kind of feedback they're looking for. I would be interested to see if the loot came back quickly. These types of games are always looking for ways to create content without patching, and what I mean by that is just having things that can become repeatable content within the game that are ancillary.
Yeah.
And I think that this would be an interesting way to do that. If you had a meta where zone control was so important because of these loot drops,
Right.
and like having control of an area of the city and maintaining that perimeter.
And that meta is already there. That's my point about this. That meta is they already wanted to institutionalize that with the way the extraction works. So the way that works is you go and you get your stuff, fill in the blank, you kill. There's also these elite guys that have names like Corey Brandon or what the fuck ever, Corey Trevor, you name
Trevor,
it.
Corey,
And
Corey,
yeah. And after you get your stuff from them, you go and you can hold 6 contaminated pieces of equipment, and everything you get in the Dark Zone is contaminated. And for anyone that doesn't know what the Dark Zone is the only place that you can go to get PvP action. And when you shoot someone, you become rogue, and people can see you, and they can kill you without any repercussion and take your stuff. And so when you get your stuff, you go to this extraction point, and you shoot a flare up in the air, and this helicopter comes down and takes your contaminated equipment, in which you can only hold 6 of at a time, and lifts it up into the air and takes it back to your stash in the non-PvP area. And that dynamic right there is where that comes in place of holding points and controlling zones of the map. Because someone calls in an extraction point, you can see it. You can be like 2 blocks away or however many blocks away and see that they've called in the extraction. Run there, kill them before they put their stuff onto the extraction, grab their stuff, and put it on your own extraction. And that
that gets me really excited. That's
right. That's fun because whenever you're calling in your extraction, you're posted up.
The rogue dynamic, I think that should be.
Yeah, I hit it up a little bit, but I didn't actually delve into it. So the way the rogue works is you can actually get it from accidentally friendly firing and stuff. But generally, as soon as you shoot someone, especially if it seems like it's on purpose, because I've seen the game where I shoot someone and it won't put me into rogue because they were like walking in front of me or something. But I shot them and it didn't put me into rogue, and I was like, okay. But when you shoot someone, it'll put you into rogue. And people in a certain vicinity of you can see you, and depending on how much damage you did, or if you kept shooting them, or if you kill more people afterwards, will depend on how much time you are in rogue, and it has like a little clock
it's a timer.
It's a little timer, okay. Right? And after you kill 5 people, you get a manhunt on you, and everyone in the map in your instance can see you, and they'll hunt your ass down. And if you survive, you get money and shit.
There's actually a reward to surviving.
Yeah, to surviving the manhunt. Yeah, you get like a certain amount of money or something like that, which you can use to spend at the vendor and get more gear.
Okay, and when you attack somebody who's been labeled a rogue, you do not accrue the rogue status. So
yes, you are able to kill. You are able to purge them as you please. You're totally justified.
So wait, you're not allowed to kill people without procking this rogue thing?
So something that the Deej hasn't mentioned is, but he's explained this to me prior to the podcast, is that while you walk around the map, there's open VoIP, and I think that horrible, cringe-worthy demonstration at E3 probably actually demonstrates something that is a mechanic of the game, and that you can just communicate with people. Can you elaborate on that, Deej?
I'm sorry, I was coughing my lungs out, and I wasn't listening.
The open VoIP system.
Oh, that's my favorite part, and like you said, it was in Halo 2. Your party chat, like your party voice system, is on the same line as the open mic. So, whenever you go to say something to the people in your party, people in a certain vicinity of you can also hear you. And I like that a lot because you're not just, as far as realism is concerned, you're not going to pull out a walkie-talkie and start running your mouth or whatever and have people not just be able to hear you that are around you.
Right.
No, that's really cool, yeah.
Yeah, I always thought the proximity VoIP was one of the greatest dynamics to games, and being able to shit-talk kids and just, you can hear people breathing underneath of you on Halo 2, and you know that there's somebody there even if they're not on radar, that type of a thing. But, so, the rogue system in conjunction with open VoIP, I think really makes for an interesting dynamic to exploring and
PvP in general.
Mingling or
having an open world like that where it's kind of based on an RPG system, but you can still have that feeling of being out in the Wild West like you do when you play H1Z1 or other
the one
games
thing that
like
turns me off about this whole thing as I'm hearing you guys talk about it is I don't like the idea of there being a leveling system, statistics, or...
Yeah, that's what kind of
scares me that's what scares you, and that's what scared me when I first got into it. I was totally skeptical, and I was like, this game's not going to be good because of this. I'm going to play it, and I'm not going to have a good time. And like I said to you earlier, that's another point I wanted to hit up, was being too high of a level. I had to go down to the mailbox and do some stuff, but after I played all day with Pickle, I had to get off for a minute and take care of some things. I came back after about an hour, and he wasn't thinking about it. He was playing with the streamer guy. He got up a level 8 in the real level, or your like physical level, which is your player level, I guess I should say. You have the player level, and you have a Dark Zone level. Right, and the Dark Zone level determines what kind of chests you can open in the Dark Zone and stuff like that. But your player level determines what kind of gear you can equip, so you still need to go back and do missions and other stuff in the PvE area. And he went and got level 8. I had to go get level 8 in order to be able to play with him in the dark zone.
Oh, man. That is so dumb.
So
why would they do that?
Why would they do that? That's exactly what I said. Why would they make it to where I have to go do this in order to play with my friend right now? And that's the same thing with Destiny. There's not really a way to play with your friends that just got the game, and unless you make a new character, and which you can do. You got like 5 characters.
I don't think Destiny's a fair comparison because I got.
Well,
I was run by full max level characters.
Oh, you can do that?
Yeah,
okay.
You can, no problem. They can run you through the game, and they just like one shot everything.
Okay. I thought when you had said when you first got Destiny, I thought it was like that.
You can't. You have to level up to do raids, but they can do boring leveling stuff with you. You can't go do fun max level stuff, which is the whole point of the game. That's still the reason that I don't enjoy.
That's the thing I like about Guild Wars is you can just set your level down. You can tell yourself, "Oh, no, I'm at here. I'm gonna go play with my friend on this character. Go eat my ass."
See, here's where I'm at with this whole thing. Is the problem I have with this, and I always have problems on a macro level with this kind of stuff, is because like I always think of, well, what does it mean? You know what I mean? Like for the industry or for devs.
Right.
And I don't like this. I don't understand why, if you're going to make your game centered around extraction of contaminated gear and zones, controlling zones in order to get this gear, and it's all about salvaging gear. That's cool. It's a cool idea. You're in a post-apocalyptic Manhattan, and you're trying to salvage stuff and make use of it and use it to control other people. That's awesome. The problem is, when you start getting into like levels and things like that, it becomes more than... It's not about your skill so much anymore.
And it's not about a realism experience.
And it's not about the decisions you make either. It's no longer the Wild West. It's a video game now. Like, instead of it being a simulator, it's now a video game. And
that's the thing. If you're going into the game looking for something like that gives you the feel of being in the Wild West, you need to play H1Z1. That's the feeling. That, to me, that is you fucking parachute in. The gas is closing in on you. You have to make your decisions now what you're going to do. And you're going to walk into some random house and find stuff. It's there. It's randomly spawned. And you get it. You get geared up. And you fucking go on and look for people. And fight combat. And
right. And why in the Division is the gear not how you get... Like, okay, so here's an example. There's an ability where you can use a drone in that game, right?
Yeah.
Or there's like a remote controlled something that explodes. I forget what it was, but there isn't
my friend has like a grenade launcher right now, and it sets this mine that I think he can just detonate.
Right. That should be gear. That should be finite gear. That should not be an ability.
No, that's a static damage ability. Yeah.
Right. That's ludicrous to me. I mean, your whole game's based around finding this gear. Make it the gear then that does it. Make it be
That's
like,
the same
okay.
thing with grenades. I was going to make this point too as I was playing, and I got to remember all the stuff that I was getting. Dude, I was screaming at the Division this afternoon because I was so mad. And the grenades also aren't really, they're a static damage. You can't find like better grenades. Like, if they're going to make a game that's like this, be Borderlands then. Be a third-person Borderlands where I'm finding grenades and mod packs and what the hell ever, shields, you name it, and I have my character and I build them. My biggest concern with that game, my number one concern, is, like I already made this point, the loot system. It's you shouldn't be static drops because you're not going to get combat. It's not like you're going to have people there defending. You're just going to have people that were luckily timed and were able to get there and get the stuff. And then it's going to be 45 minutes from now that stuff's going to be there. And they know when they picked it up. They know the fucking spawn timers. And so they know exactly when to go back there and get it. It's like Dragon or fighting things on Smite or League.
I mean, we should again iterate that, and I hate that studios have this excuse now. But it is still in beta, and there's a lot of stuff that's probably going to change. Especially, it's stuff like a loot timer is probably one of the most likely to change.
The very things I'm talking about, I am hoping, and I might even make a forum post about it, that...
Oh, settle down now. Come on, let's not get lazy.
I don't need to make my fingers do anything. Didn't need hard work. I just need to run my mouth.
Let's not talk about forum posts, okay? Let's keep this civilized here. Let's...
They need to just make it to where loot spawns in places. Give me a reason to look around in these areas. I walk past an area that is a building or something that I can walk into, but there's nothing that I need to worry about it for. In the H1Z1, I can walk into whatever building I see. Every single building in the town I can step into and there might be loot in. In that game, there's particular locations with static loot drops, and that's not fun. That's not good. I need to be able to walk around and have a reason to explore the places between point A and point B, not just point A and point B. And that's the whole point.
And I think that's the problem with today's gamer.
Long stretches of land where this is all worth nothing now. This is just literally me between points of gear, not, I walked past something. There might be gear there. Better go check it out.
Right, and this is the problem with today's gamer is they don't want to do anything. Today's gamer does not want to do anything unless they know that there is a reward at the end of it, and they want to know exactly what reward is there. I mean, there's no thrill.
I think that's an internet thing with being able to Google things in 1 second as opposed to go to a library and check out a book.
Or supposed to have a subscription to Nintendo Power and buy a game that's totally meant to sell Nintendo Power. So you can be able to play it so you know which tree you have to throw the fireball at in order to get into the dungeon.
Yeah, and the classic example that me and Paul brought up last week, or last podcast, was... we were talking about the difference between Morrowind and Skyrim, and Morrowind, you could walk in one direction, go into a cave, go into the belly of these catacombs, and find a leveled sword that is ludicrously overpowered that you can kill a bunch of people with this crazy enchantment on it at level 1. And so it gave you... Now, it was unlikely that you'd find it, but it gave you this thrill of just going somewhere. You'd be walking past a giant tomb with cool archaeology and you'd just be like, maybe, or architecture, sorry. and you'd just be like, maybe I'm going to go...
Wall carvings.
Yeah, like maybe I'm going to take a walk in there and just see what's up, and maybe I'll find something really cool in there. Nowadays, you're not going to find anything cool in there because that's not one of the points where the loot spawns. Like, it's silly, but...
Things feel more systematic. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It sounds like it's bad design. I don't know. I don't think you should ever blame it on the gamer. And I know that what you're saying is it's expectation of the gamer, but it's bad game design that we have these days, and you need a game that plays itself. We might have mentioned Super Meat Boy in the past about how that game has no tutorial because there's no need for a tutorial.
Skyward Sword suffers from the same symptom. You have a metal detector on your sword. The Zelda game, Skyward Sword. You have a metal detector on your sword. Your fairy, or her name's Fee, or whatever, your person that follows you around that lives in your sword, will douse things, and you say, I want to look for these cubes that you hit with your like Skyward Strike, which is like your magic sword attack. You want to look for these cubes. Well, you walk into this new level that you went into, you press the button, and you point your sword around with the Wiimote, and it'll go ding, 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 go that way. And you go that way, and it shows you where the thing is, and you can see it like maybe like over this ledge, or over this canyon, or whatever. And you can't get to it, and you go, okay, well, there's obviously a way that I'm going to run onto here that I will be able to get to it. And eventually you find that path, and you go there, and you climb up the thing, and you get there, and you hit it. But then you get up into this big area where the whole open world feeling of exploration is supposed to be, and you're surrounded by hundreds of islands. Maybe not hundreds. Maybe about dozens of islands. And these islands in the sky. And the first time you play, you want to check these things out. But every time you get to one, they don't have anything but this grayed out chest behind some bars or something. And when you hit these cubes, it'll shoot up into the sky, and you go back up into the sky, and it'll tell you right on your map where you go, which island it's on, and you go over to the island, and you open up the chest, and it gives you your thing. It gives you your rupees, it gives you your fucking bottle. It's never an item. It's never this next device I'm going to use, or this next mask, this next thing. Miyamoto. It's a resource, and there's too much resources in that game, and that's the problem with it. There's no feeling of. I was wandering through this area like in Majora's Mask. I get into the sewer finally after I caught all those bastards. And I'll get to this spot I go to the left in the sewers, and then there's this crack on the wall. I don't have my bombs yet, but I'm going to remember when I get my bombs to go back to where that spot is, in that really cool place, and go blow it up.
Clever backtracking is a good game design.
Right.
The thing that I wanted to point out is I think visual cues are too easy. I think that's too simple for players. If you play any of the Rayman games, the classic one, I was just playing Rayman 2 not too long ago on the N64, and that has the same mechanic that the modern side-scrollers have, where they don't have visual cues per se, but they have audio cues where you hear people saying help me, and there's a collectible. Now I have to go find it. It's in this proximity, and now
that's
I have to
Banjo-Tooie. That's Banjo-Tooie. You're walking around in this level, and you hear Banjo.
Yeah, the little guys, the colorful guys.
Yeah,
and that's the whole
that's
audio cues are a nice rough assessment of an approximation of something you're looking for. Not a big, not an accurate GPS coordinate of, okay, now just go there.
Yeah.
And I think that makes exploration fun, because if you run a certain route, you're going to pass up some of those audio cues, and in some situations you might think that there's nothing there and that it's not possible, but really there's a ledge that you missed, or you come back to it. Crash Bandicoot, though, did use visual cues, but it was a tease where it would say, hey, look at this crystal that you can't reach no matter how you try and jump. And the way that you get that crystal is you actually end up going through a secret level, and you end up finishing that level, and it drops you down to get the crystal, and then you have to finish the initial level that you saw in the first place. And
so this is just all the longest possible way ever constructed by man to say that the Division does not encourage exploration, right?
Yeah,
it does encourage exploration. That's the point that gives you a conundrum. It encourages exploration because, like I said before, you get better gear, you get higher level, and then you get more areas of the city to unlock that you want to check out and see What's there? What's the instances? What are the encounters around there? It's totally a blacked out part of the city, and it's supposed to be fresh and new. And so there is that feeling of exploration, but it's not rewarded because you get to whatever place that you fought all these things through, and then you don't get any gear because someone was there 20 minutes ago. And
that's got to change. I mean, in the final cut of that game, 45 minutes is just ridiculous for having 140 people.
However long the loot takes to reset, I'm not sure the exact number, but you need to figure out something. I like that people are pushed into wanting to go rogue in order to get good loot. I like that. I think that should be something that's put in because there needs to be people that are hungry and that are going to fight because they are hungry. That's a cool survival aspect. But they need to tone it down a little bit to where it's not everyone, because now I really can't trust anybody. I really can't think this extraction is going to be safe because I know there's a lot of motherfuckers out there that haven't found anything.
Right,
like
and
me.
Some people might be tempted to say, "Oh, well, it's good that you can't trust anyone. That means it's working." But I actually think that's a good point that you made, because it's a delicate balancing act where there is a point where you are fostering griefers and you are fostering people who are going to make the game not entertaining.
There needs to be a bad guy because there's a point to the whole game. There's a point for the good guys to band together to fight the bad guy. But the way they have it set up, it just doesn't work right. There's just too many bad guys. And
it sounds like a missed opportunity. I mean, they should. It's easy to say this is beta. It's easy to say, like I've been saying, it's easy to say that, you know, when they have the release, it'll be different, or they'll fix some of this stuff, or it's not finished. But at the end of the day, a bad launch can gimp a game. We were just talking about SWTOR. It has taken 4.5 years for Star Wars to climb out of the hole it's launched, Doug. And the same thing with what was that other game that just came out? Battlefront had bad launch. Diablo. We were just talking about Diablo. Diablo 3 had a horrid launch.
Yeah, terrible.
Well, that was the auction house, and that's the thing is, anytime there's money to be made by the company, it's going to skew the way that the player experiences the game, because now money is on the table. So you're literally working at that point. You're not playing, even though there's a paywall. You buy your copy, you're not playing the game, you're working in the game for potential cash, which is absurd. So the auction house F's everything up. I was even just, GTA 5 had a really small update, and I hate that game for what it is. But they have shark cards. The game, you pay for the game, and then they put microtransactions in, so then they skew the way that you can earn money in that game, which is insanity. It's Grand Theft Auto, but I can only sell a car every 45 minutes. And
what?
I can do a mission, dude. I can do a heist, but I have to use your vehicle to do the heist that you set up, as opposed to, I really think that the heist should be Mad Libs, in the sense that, okay, you earn cash and you can buy all of this ridiculous stuff that you can soup up and hook up with things the way you want, but then use our vanilla vehicles for the heist to add a layer of difficulty. But it's not even difficulty, it's just slows down the pace so that you can't make all your money, so that they can hopefully convince.
And then you do
things
with those vehicles, like get in them and then go get in your actual truck and do the thing, and then you have to
you end up, there's always a way. Yeah, there's always a run around where you end up going, okay, everybody wait here for 10 minutes. I'm going to go back to my garage, get the vehicle that we need to do the job right. Then we'll all get in it and we'll just go do it easy. It's like, once you get to the point that you've played the game for 100 hours, just let those players be power players, dude. Let power players exist. It's always game design trying to tell the player how to play the game, because there's a monetary gain to be had by somebody, by the developer or the publisher, and it just skews everything. That's what ruined
but I have
Diablo and GTA, sorry.
I have to play devil's advocate and just say that the reason I place the blame on the gamer most of the time more than the dev is because it's working. They're making their money this way.
Yeah,
this model is proven.
Right. Well, that's the problem, and that's the same thing. Battlefront is by all means a bad game. It's just a bad game. It's simply a bad game.
Horrible.
Now,
horrible game.
To the common man, to the non-gamer, the majority of people out there, it's Star Wars. It does the Star Wars.
It's imitation gaming. It looks, feels, sounds like you are playing a video game, and that is all it does.
Taste. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
I had this joke. I was telling my friend Chris, who's goes to class with me at Westchester, and he got the game as a gift for Christmas. He's not a gamer. He's kind of like a passive gamer, but
filthy, stinking casual.
Yes, he was a filthy, dirty plebe. He was playing it, and he was like, we were talking. He goes, "It's fine," and he goes, "But it's just I don't know. It feels like I'm not really doing anything." And I was like, I made this joke. I said that game is the perfect game. It's as if someone created a game to be played in the background of movies, because it looks in every way like you're playing a relevant new video game, but that's all it does.
I see what you're saying. That's funny. That's really funny.
Yeah, like it looks
like those corny ass games that you see where they're like driving the car, or it's just something that's like not even a game, just an animation that's been made by some team.
Right. Did you ever see Inside Man with Denzel Washington? It was Spike Lee.
Is that the one where they're playing the fish game and there's like fish on the screen?
No, it was a bank heist movie where in the movie.
Oh yeah, and he's in the I saw that.
It was like imitation Grand Theft Auto game the kid was playing, and it was basically just a CG animation they made really quick to be in the movie to look like Grand Theft Auto.
Right.
But that is what I feel like when I'm playing Battlefront. Like there's nothing there. There's no content, there's no substance there. It is imitation gaming. It is the epitome of you pretending to play video games. I hate that game. I hate that game with
it's bad.
passion.
It's bad for a lot of reasons, and that's basically, I guess, what this podcast is based around.
I think it's like a lot of the things might be not chalked down to preference, like the cards and stuff like that. People that grew up with the Battlefront games, they get sick to their stomach when they see that, and that's kind of preference. But things that are factually bad, like just
it's
objectively bad.
Yeah.
Objectively bad, that are the partner system, that's objectively bad. That's just a bad system of not being connected to the rest of your friends, only being connected to one of them. Oh, you got 3 people? One of your friends is going to feel like they're not playing with anybody at all. That
right.
2 people are sitting there talking in the same call as you, in the same game as you, but you have no feeling of being in that game. And it's not because you're on opposite teams either, or stuff like that. Being in opposite teams makes it feel like I'm actually part of the game, because I'll kill someone eventually, and they'll go, "You son of a bitch!" Like when I killed you and Richie when you ran out, and you got so mad at me. Like you and Richie ran out of this thing, like the Hoth base or whatever, and it was like I was just picking people that were walking out of this door, and you were like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" Like that. That was the only connection I felt to you.
It's hard to tell those instances apart.
Yeah,
with Paul. Paul says that a
lot. Dude.
My main point though was that you have to commend games when they actually make an improvement with design and actually push the bill for what game design is, what mechanics are, and I think we said before about Battlefront that before it came out, when I saw DICE was put in charge of that, I was like, awesome! It's going to be Battlefield with Star Wars skin. The problem is that it was not that good. They took Battlefield and they removed a lot of mechanics from it. They said, let's add a power-up system because that doesn't make any sense. Let's take the squads and make it a partner system because that doesn't make any sense. Let's make this cookie-cutter garbage, and then let's put KD on it because that doesn't make any sense when you have unbalanced sides. Let's take unbalanced sides.
And people like Eric and Sean would both tell me, don't even talk to me about that game. It pisses me off, dude. All they did was took Star Wars, or they took Battlefield and put a Star Wars skin on it. If that was what they did, it would be a good game. We would all have it right now. We would all be playing it.
Yeah, why wouldn't you play
If that's how it worked, if it was literally just that, 100%, same UI, same everything. I don't even care. They can put the fucking dude for Battlefield 4 on the front and just give him a stormtrooper helmet. I don't know. If they did that, if they did that, it would be totally good. It would be really good. It would be a fantastic game, and we'd all be playing it.
They just,
or hell, just release it as a expansion pack.
They made a psycho. They made a psycho incest baby. It wasn't a skin. They made the Aberdolf Linkler of video games with that. They thought they'd make a morally neutral game, but really it turned out to be a weird douchebag. And that's what it was.
That's all right. So summing up, we got to sum up that. So your verdict with your very brief time with The Division.
Oh, The Division. I have more stuff to go on about that. There's things that bother me about it and get me really mad.
Let's just get your overall.
Let's get an overall for now, because I
want to hit up one thing. You can't join a party from the main menu, and that infuriates me, because there's long load screens, particularly if you have a hard drive, and I shouldn't have to load all the way into a game and then be like, okay, there's my friend, one more loading screen. I should directly go to my friend. That's silliness. And it should take me a year to launch the game either. It should give me a simplistic menu.
Yeah.
It doesn't take War and Peace.
There needs to be bookends to video games. You need to load into, especially on PC, you need to be able to adjust your options, your graphical settings.
Give me one of those cheat menus that Unity engine run games get, in which I love. It comes up with a tiny window, has a picture of the game with the title, and it says, what's your resolution? Here's your video options. Here's
the pre-launcher, the game launcher before you launch into the game. Yeah.
Give me that.
All of those things are valid, but no, let's load up a large, AAA cinematic and sit through a tutorial that doesn't have an options menu, and then once you're done that, then you can have your options menu. That's absurd.
That's
absurd.
It's bad. Other than that, as far as the actual game is concerned, I enjoy it. I love it. I would not spend my own $40 on it. I would probably buy it for $30, but my friend is going to buy it for me, so I'm not concerned. If I had to buy it to play with everyone else that I know, I'd spend $30. I would definitely try to aim for the G2A or Kingwin deal with that, and I would.
Our sponsors
never ever buy, off of a AAA website.
I think this is good. That I think what we're gonna do is I think we're pretty much in agreement. We'll probably have you come back, as much as you want to at this point. And next week, if you want to, give us more about The Division. Because you're gonna have another day, right? Or is this the last day?
Yeah, I'm gonna have tonight, and I'm gonna be playing tomorrow, and my friends are gonna be getting on. We're gonna be jamming because they enjoy it. I enjoy it. It's a fun game. It's totally great to have it with your friends.
Just fix the loop, right?
If I was playing it single player, just fix the loop. If I was playing it single player, I don't know about my experience. So, if you're planning on playing it single player, just be cautious.
Friends make the game.
Yeah. Friends make the game. Don't be mad at people if they put you into rogue. Shit happens, and it's not that big of a deal. You die, you lose some of your experience, and you drop your contaminated equipment. It's not like you drop everything you have. And this is one thing I have to say. Make it to where I can't revert a level, because I can go from being level 10, being able to open up these crates, get killed. I'm at level 9. Can't open up these fucking crates now. Just make it where I go stop at 0.
Yeah,
just
that's
hurt
a
me
key
level.
complaint. I agree with that.
All right, well, we're gonna end up here, right, Paul?
Yeah, let's
2 hours.
Nah, we're under an hour and a half, but I think it's a good spot.
Oh, yeah.
We usually run about an hour, so I think we went a little steep with an hour 20.
Yeah,
special The Division Beta Edition.
Yeah, that's what this is. Okay, guys. You can't find us anywhere because we don't have Twitter, Facebook, or YouTube.
Yet. But now we have a name, so.
Yeah. So just tune in next week for the next edition of the Jampack Podcast. Take care. Take care.